I've lived in Colorado for more than 40 years now, with decades of skiing, beautiful snowy peaks, and enjoying shooting in 300 days a year of blue skies. I raised my family here, and I've gotten to know thousands of fellow hunters and gun owners. Now, Colorado is my home, and I'm not sure I can ever change that. I'm sure many of you feel the same about your own states. That despite the growing hordes of radical leftists, you couldn't see yourself anywhere else. But that doesn't mean we have to settle for their rules. I'll admit that each legislative session, I think to myself, what'll happen if we fail? Do I just move an hour north to a state like Wyoming that actually respects my rights? Could I leave my home behind? That's the most common comment I hear in Colorado. Quotes, I'm just going to move. Well, that's what the left actually wants. They actually want us to move out of their state so they can complete their Fabian socialist utopia. We don't fit in their world, and so they actually design these bills to force us to move. But here in Colorado, we've kept fighting, and we're not going to stop. Colorado's been deep blue for a very long time, but we continue to win many of the big battles. In 2024, we defeated an outright ban of so-called assault weapons in a deep blue state with huge Democrat majorities. And with many of the bad laws that did pass, we've challenged them in the courts. Now, whether you're in Illinois, California, Washington, Colorado, you must fight. We can win. So I'm going to hand you off to Ian Escalante, the executive director of the Colorado group I started in 1996, Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. And he's going to tell you about how we're fighting here in Colorado and how this could set the standard for fighting in blue states to take back our rights. But before I hand you off, if you're in Colorado, you must get involved by clicking the RMGO link in the description below. We need your help. Let's prove to the left that we're not going away. Now, if you're not in Colorado, we have a petition to Attorney General Pam Bondi, urging her to follow President Trump's orders and help undo the damage Gun Control Inc. has done. So let me hand it off to Ian Escalante, who's in the Colorado Capitol in Denver right now fighting for our rights.
Alrighty, what's going on, guys? Ian Escalante, Executive Director for Rocky Mountain Gun Owners here. We are now in the thick of arguably one of the biggest gunfights in Colorado history, and I might even say in the nation right now. So over the last decade to 12 years, the radical gun grabbers, funded by Michael Bloomberg and driven by the worst, most far-left legislators here in Colorado and across the nation, have looked to launch a full frontal assault on gun rights, not just in hard blue states, but in purple states and in any states where these people have a foothold. 12 years ago, they pushed a magazine ban that would limit how many rounds your magazine could take to 15. Unfortunately, they were able to pass it, and ever since then, they've been off to the races. They passed red flag gun confiscation in 2019. They then repealed preemption, which would allow liberal localities to be able to ban guns and impose all kinds of crazy, unconstitutional gun control. Well, what they tried to do this year is they tried to bring back the assault weapons bans of 2023 and 2024, which we, with the help of our members, were able to defeat. And that was when the Democrats had a supermajority of seats in the state house, and we were able to defeat them. In 2024, we were able to win 3 seats back and break their supermajority and get more pro-gun champions elected. Well, what they're trying to do this year is they're very upset that we won seats back, and now they're punishing us, and now they want to make us pay. And the way they're doing that is by pushing Senate Bill 3. So the initial version of Senate Bill 3 was just another rendition of the assault weapons bans from 2023 and 2024. Well, when they realized that they couldn't get that bill out of the Senate, they amended it down, and they turned it from a full-scale semi-auto ban to a permit-to-purchase scheme and a opening and gateway for a firearm owner ID card like they have in Illinois for so-called specified semi-automatic weapons, which are any semi-automatic rifle with a detachable magazine, any semi-automatic shotgun with a detachable magazine, any gas-operated pistol that's semi-auto and takes a detachable magazine. So from the second this bill was read across the desk, we immediately started mobilizing our members. And what we did is we paid for direct connect calls where we called individuals within these legislators' districts, and we directly connected them to their legislator to put pressure on them. We were sending out text messages. We were flooding their inbox with emails. We had a rally on the day that the Senate hearing took place. We have been collecting petitions, and we delivered those petitions to our members' individual legislators as a show of demonstrable proof of angry voters. And it bothered them so much that the bill sponsor, Senator Tom Sullivan, came up and had a deranged meltdown, screaming in my face and calling the petitions from his district a box of trash.
Are you gonna pull the bill? Because that's all.
No,
that's
that's all your question is. No, I've got the votes to pass it, and I've got a governor who's going to sign it. Why would I do that? Okay, that was it. That's our conversation on it.
That's our. If you're not willing to budge on this, which you're obviously not, there's no conversation.
Well, where's your budge? What are you offering me in a budge?
What I'm offering you is for you not to try to violate the rights of 6 million Coloradans.
Where is the give and take on this? Are you offering any kind
Our
of a give and
motto
take?
is no compromise. We support the Second Amendment as written.
This
shall
doesn't
not
have
be
anything
infringed.
to do with it.
It absolutely has everything to do with it. There's thousands of people from your district who don't want this legislation to pass. It's the only thing we were trying to convey by dropping that off. We dropped that off to every single senator, and many of them received them with open arms and didn't have any problem with it whatsoever. For the folks that were there, they said, okay, great, I have messages from my constituents.
I don't know what why would I look at a box of trash? I don't go through trash unless someone tells me what this is. And you didn't leave it, so
You're claiming it's trash. It's not trash.
Well, I think it is until someone tells me what it is.
I just told you what it is.
All right, well, I'll toss it out. Thanks so much.
Unfortunately, it did pass out of the Senate by only 2 votes, and that was after they took out the hardcore ban language and turned this into, as I mentioned before, a really wonky, screwed up permit to purchase scheme where now you're going to need to ask a park ranger for permission in order to be able to purchase the most commonly used firearms in America. After that, it went off to the House, and the House sat on this bill for about 3 weeks, and every time they would try to schedule it for the Judiciary Committee, we and a bunch of people across the Second Amendment community here in Colorado would plan a rally. We'd get people mobilized and ready to go, and then they pull it off the calendar. They did it twice until they finally put it on the calendar for March 11th. We showed up in full force. We had public testimony going for over 12 hours. We made them stay here till almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Despite the fact that they passed it, they could feel the pain. We mobilized so many people. We had them there late. And we began, now granted last year, we deliver petitions every year. And last year we delivered petitions, and Chad Clifford, one of the worst votes on the gun issue in the state of Colorado, pretty much had a deranged meltdown very similar to Tom Sullivan's last year, and his staff started throwing our petitions in the garbage can. Well, we posted that, and we let everyone know across the state of Colorado what Chad Clifford thought of his constituents. And ever since then, he has had a bone to pick with myself and with Rocky Mountain gun owners. So when it came time to testify in front of the Judiciary Committee, he started trying to come after me for daring to bring petitions from his constituents that urged him to oppose the bill. He threatened to put me under oath because he was trying to say that the petitions were all fake and there weren't actually people from his constituents who were petitioning him, which he can't even do. He's not the chair. He doesn't have that type of power. It wasn't that type of hearing that day.
Mr. Escalante, I've got to ask you a question because this has come up both for me, my office. It came up in something that I saw even on the news the other day with one of the sponsors of this bill. Can you describe the process for your documents that you deliver to the Capitol that you call petitions?
Mr. Escalante,
I'd be happy to. So we actually have a landing page on our website, and we distribute these petitions across the state of Colorado. We actually have a box of some. We actually have a box for you out in the lobby right now. And what they are is we tell our members to sign these petitions to make their voices heard against a horrific piece of legislation by Senate Bill 3. And then we very simply go ahead and we deliver these petitions to each legislator. And we break them up by zip code. We try to get them lined up with the districts as best as we possibly can. But we go ahead and we deliver them. And we just very simply say, hey, these are petitions from your constituents. And we want to give you these messages because you have X amount of constituents in your district who don't want you to pass or vote in favor of this bill.
Have you ever delivered any petitions to my office from my constituents?
Absolutely.
Mr. Escalante.
Rep Clifford.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
I said 1 or 2 questions. That was 2. I really want to keep us as close to the timeline as I can.
Mr. Escalante, I can have you put under oath.
Can you?
We're not
We can.
doing that today.
Mr. Chair, I'm not going to take part in this line of questioning.
We're not doing that today. Okay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your testimony.
And ever since then, he has had multiple deranged meltdowns online. We had activists last night that went, the day before the vote, we went to a town hall in his district and questioned him and made him answer for his horrific anti-gun votes. And he started screaming and cursing and had a total meltdown when activists were very simply requesting that he do his job and defend their Second Amendment rights. So now we're here today. We're going to see how this turns out. We're fighting really hard at the moment, and we're not going to allow gun grabbers like Tom Sullivan, Chad Clifford, Mike Bloomberg, and Jared Polis to turn Colorado into the next Massachusetts. So while we were editing this video, the bill started to pick up some serious steam, and there's been some major developments over the last few days. So first, it passed out of the House of Representatives by 4 votes. Because they amended the bill, it had to go back to the Senate so the Senate could, quote, concur with House amendments. During that time, we had activists from not just RMGO, but from across the freedom and liberty movement here in Colorado, lit dropping districts, getting out into the field, talking to voters, and it ruffled so many feathers. And this is a lesson for you Second Amendment activists that are not in Colorado or maybe don't have a whole lot of experience fighting gun control yet. Sometimes you're going to have Republicans that are not your friends. And we had a Republican who sided with the Democrats, and he parroted their lies, claiming that we harassed their families at their houses just because we were going door to door and leaving flyers and talking to people and voters in their district. He then said that all political activism must be done inside the Capitol, which is absolutely insane. You and I have very little power inside the Capitol, and what makes RMGO and NAGR so effective is that we engage our members, we mobilize people to go into the districts to pressure politicians because that's the only thing they listen to. When you are in the Capitol, going and trying to convince them to give you your rights back or to not violate your liberties is akin to a small dog begging for scraps at the Thanksgiving table. You may get 1 or 2 pieces of turkey that they were going to throw out, but you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get your liberty back. They may throw you a bone here or there, but they're not going to listen to you unless you mobilize people within their district. So after it went back to the Senate, we ended up putting a bunch of pressure back on the senators, and it passed a concurrence vote by 2 votes, and it is on its way to Governor Jared Polis's desk. So for those of you who live in Colorado, we need to put as much pressure on Governor Jared Polis as possible. As we all may know, Jared Polis has political aspirations higher than being the governor of Colorado. He sees himself as president come January 20th, 2029, and he knows full well if he were to sign this law, a law that NPR is calling one of the most sweeping and restrictive gun control bills in the nation, in U.S. history, he knows that there's a very high chance that he will not become president. So we need to make sure he feels that pressure. If you're here in Colorado, we must mobilize. You must call Jared Polis. You can click the link in the description below, and it'll take you to a page where you can call Jared Polis. It'll have his office number right there. You can click another link and send him an email, and then also sign your petition. We're going to be delivering tens of thousands of petitions to Governor Jared Polis's office here in the next 10 days. We're going to be covering the entrance of his office with boxes, and that does make a difference, especially when he wants to play Mr. Moderate. He wants to play Mr. Bipartisan. He even tries to call himself a libertarian. So we need to make sure that he knows that if he signs the worst gun bill in U.S. history, that he will never make it into the Oval Office.